I record most of the videos I make in my basement. Sometimes it's like being in the chamber of a very large drama. Of the time I spend making videos, a pretty good amount of that time is actually spent waiting for a window in which to record a video, or doing retakes because of a bunch of noise. You know, I mean, sometimes, obviously, if you see a jump cut in something that I do, it's usually because there was a noise, something short or transient that I just cut out. But sometimes they go on for a long time, and then I just have to stop and come back at a later time. And sometimes I just don't have the energy to do that. So it means I start recording a lot more videos than I ever actually finish, which I'm sure is the problem that everybody has. I had a video like a month and a half ago. That was my sort of thank you for getting me to 1,000 subscribers, where I lamented the cadence of my video releases as being way too slow. And I vowed to be better in the future about trying to always overcomplicate things and just put stuff out more regularly. And that's a promise I have singularly failed to uphold. But I'm releasing this video now, and this is me trying to reset the sort of leapfrogging nature of stuff that I've been doing, at least from my point of view, sort of always trying to one-up myself. I don't worry so much about other people, but I'd like to feel like I'm getting better within the parameters of my own ability. But so this video is a very sort of simple back to basics video, to sort of break that chain. So a little over a month and a half ago, something like that. I've talked about this a bunch. I don't want to talk about it too much more because I want to just do it and not just have a whole bunch of talk about it. But I started talking with Ephemeral Rift about working on a project together, and we've been, working on it in fits and starts. It's been a lot of fun. But anyway, as part of it, one of the things that I did was started looking for vintage surgical equipment on eBay, and not just eBay, but I found a very interesting lot of surgical implements that were from the mid 20th century, and it was kind of a strange experience, because the person who had listed them, he had no eBay history, which of course everybody knows is a red flag. You gotta watch out for that stuff. I'm not the savviest person in the world, but I'm fairly tech savvy, so I'm not going to get scammed by somebody like that. But it doesn't matter because it's happened to me before. I've had people try to scam me, and you end up losing, time, which is money. So it's still annoying. But anyway, so that was the one red flag. Was that this guy had no eBay history. But I went ahead and bid on the item, a fairly low bid. I had no hope of scoring this particular auction. I'd set my limit at it was low, at $100, I think is what I set it at. And my bid went in at $69.70, something like that. And within an hour of me putting that bid, and there was no bid history on this lot either, which I found a little surprising. Within an hour of me putting in the bid, the guy emailed me, and again, this was another little bit of a red flag, but it ended up being all right. But he was like, yeah, I'll just sell you the stuff for what you offered, and I'll just take the listing down, and we'll just do it, outside of eBay, which you're not supposed to do. And I don't like it when people try and do that, because usually it means they're trying to pull one. I mean, they're trying to avoid the eBay fees, or they're trying to pull one over on you. But he told me, I mean, either he was a really good faker, or he was I could tell he was not very computer savvy. He seemed like he was probably older. He was in the United Kingdom, and he had a funny name. Well, I shouldn't say his whole name, but I remember it because his first name was Felix, which is a memorable name, at least. Maybe it's not funny, but it's memorable. A name from an earlier time. We don't have a lot of Felixes being born today. So anyway, after going back and forth with this guy a little bit, he basically said that, I had all these reservations, but he said he would send me the stuff. I have a fairly good eBay history. So he said he would send me the stuff, and I could just pay him once I got it. I wouldn't have to pay him at all until I actually had it in my hands. So I couldn't really see anything wrong with that. So in spite of him having no eBay history and wanting to do a kind of backroom deal, I went ahead with it because this lot had a lot of stuff in it, and was too good to pass up, and it was cheap. So I went ahead with the deal. I got the package overseas in a week and a half, from maybe 9 days from when I sort of agreed to purchase the stuff, which, I mean, the guy, I don't know if he had somebody, doing his packaging for him or whatever it was. I don't know that he did. It was kind of scrawled in that kind of older person's shaky hand. But I got it in 9 days, and I looked at it and thought it looked great. So I paid the guy, and that was it. That was the extent of the transaction. So anyway, I used it for a video I did a little bit ago, for the ASMR awareness during surgery video, and I'm going to use it for this forthcoming project. But there's some interesting stuff in it, so I figured I'd do a what's in my bag video. Something really simple and straightforward. Before that, because it really is kind of neat. So let's get started. This is the bag. So it's a pretty common medical bag. It's by, the company is called MD, EMDEE. And apparently they sort of had the monopoly on making doctors' bags in the 20th century and possibly before. I haven't really looked up their company history or anything. But so, I mean, first off, this bag was in fantastic condition. I had seen a whole lot of, if you go on eBay and look up, medical bags, you'll see a whole lot of these MD bags, but you won't see any, or very few, or at least I didn't, where the handles are in this kind of shape, where there's like no rust. There's wear. There's the wear you would expect with decades of use, but I just thought this was in fantastic condition. The lock doesn't work. That's the only thing that's wrong with it. Apart from that, it's in perfect condition. So I was very pleased with the bag itself. And of course, it opens kind of like your typical doctor bags do. With the sort of two side cases and sort of the main center area with some, it's got like some little pockets and stuff for whatever. So I'm going to just start pulling stuff out and we can all look at it together and just see how that goes. So one of the most interesting things about this, and the guy Felix told me this in the email, was that for those who aren't aware of this, in the 20th century, doctors had their own surgical implants. They kept their own sets, and they had them for, if they were well made and they took good care of them, they maintained them well, they could have the same surgeon's tools for the bulk of their career, which, it's certainly not the way that it's done now, but that's the way that this was done for these. These apparently, I was told that everything that came in this kit belonged to the same doctor. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I think it is like 90% true, because there's actually the name etched on most of these implements with care, but by hand. The name, I believe, is Velikovsky. So anyway, so this is Dr. Velikovsky's hemostatic forceps case. This is the first thing that I opened up when I got the case, and it's just a roll-up fabric bag, and in it are 6 pairs of forceps. I'm sorry, it's actually 12 pairs, but there's 6 different kinds of forceps, 2 pairs of each kind. You can see it in here. And there's some fascinating ones. I mean, generally when you think of forceps, you probably think of this. This is sort of the most basic one, right? It's like a ridged, textured, flat points of contact along the length of the. It applies pressure across the entire length of the nose. And there are these sort of serrated, they make sort of this little click sound, these serrated grooves to lock them in place at different levels of compression. Do that again. I like that sound. So that's, when most people, I think, when they think of a pair of forceps, that's probably exactly what they think of. Most non-medical personnel. But there are a bunch of different kinds. There's obviously just the ones that are slightly different. Like these are just curved. But apart from that curve, They are identical. These have, they're actually longer nosed, but they also have a different pattern in the ridges. They have like these long, lengthwise ridges, which I don't know, what the different reason is for the different texture. Oh, look at that. I'm just noticing this. He's got his name here really tiny. I don't know how he managed to write that. But yeah, so different textures in the points of contact for, I'm sure, different purposes. In spite of the fact that I have that ER series of videos, I'm not a medical doctor and I have no medical training apart from being a hypochondriac. But here's another just curved set. And I thought these were identical pairs, but they're not actually. Most of them are, but some of them aren't. I don't know if there's just a pair that got lost or something. But and there are these, the ones that I find slightly more interesting. So these only have a point of contact at the very end, and they're like, there's serrated teeth at the end here. They're like two interlocking pairs of hands. Like that. So here's a pretty interesting set of forceps as well. I mean, I assume they're all forceps, right? But these are really sharp. They have really sharp points. Like that could easily. Oh, that's super sharp. And they slide immediately adjacent to each other. These are machined with so much precision. It's really something. I would guess you would hope that it would be machined with precision, and you wouldn't be wrong. So I don't know what these would be used for. Like I said, I don't know if it's because they're obviously going to puncture whatever they go through. Yeah, I can't. My layman's brain can't imagine what those are for, but I know I have some medical personnel who watch my videos, so maybe you could chime in and tell me why would you want to use these forceps? Are they for suturing? Are they, I don't know. They don't look like they'd help the situation. So, yeah, that was sort of the first thing that I found interesting. I found everything in these bags. This bag interesting. I just found the bag itself interesting. The bag is like, if you put your ear up to it, you can hear like the ocean. The sound like reverberating in there, I guess. It was interesting. It's a very discernible sound, and it's not. You might be able to hear there's somebody's using a sink somewhere in the house. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sound you hear when you put your ear up to this, which is interesting, a little unnerving. So anyway, okay, so let's move on. So these things are pretty cool. They're dull. There's nothing sharp about them. And the reason I point that out, you'll see, is that almost everything in this bag is really sharp. Things that don't look like they would have sharp edges, they are, but not these. And these are not, I mean, they're tongs, right? Essentially. Another thing is, almost everything in this bag was manufactured in Germany, which quite interesting and ironic. They were being used by a Russian doctor during World War II, but nobody said the Germans could not make sort of precision tools. So that's that thing, which I don't know what it's called. I don't know what any of these things are called. Oh, I know what a couple of them are called. But these things that look kind of like toenail clippers, bred with an earwig. They have a point of contact sort of right at the end there. See if we can focus in on that a little bit. Does that kind of focus there? I don't know if it is or not, but so this is an example of the things I was talking about when I was saying that most of the stuff in here is sharp. These are actually dug out and concave and really sharp. And you could really, I mean, you can squeeze this really tight and get, I can't even imagine how many pounds per square inch of pressure at the ends of these. So I don't know what you would use these for. It seems like they're a bit of overkill for soft tissue, so maybe they're used for bone or I don't know. There's those. Oh yeah, well, there's this. This is the speculum, of course. Interesting. The only thing about this is it seems a little small to me. I don't know much about speculums, but the ones that I've seen anyway, larger than this. I did think a little bit about what that could mean for the particular use of that speculum, but then I stopped thinking about it. It's got some retractors, a couple of things that, well, a bunch of things here are doubled. So two of the sort of same sized small retractors for pulling flesh apart. Got a much larger retractor. This thing is huge. I'm not sure. I guess a lot of these, I'm guessing a lot of this is so, the way the handles are designed are so they won't slip out of your hand and fall into a body cavity or something. There's that. This is kind of interesting. These are sort of like this pair earlier, but they're shorter, blunter. They don't actually touch at the end, even when you bring them in as far as you can. And again, I assume this is just to prevent it from slipping out of your hand, going somewhere it's not supposed to. But this is also concave here, both of these. But like I said, they don't, even if you squeeze them as tightly as they'll go, they don't actually touch at the ends. There are several things in here. There's another etching of his name. Let's see if we can get that on this cam. You probably can't. It's probably too small, but maybe you can. There are several all-looking implements as well. This is one of them. It's the shortest of the ones that I have. Again, very sharp, and gives you a really good grip here. So again, I'm guessing this is not for soft tissue. Here's another one. This is one of the few implements that actually has some sort of I don't know if that's just oxidation or what on the handle there. But here's another. This is very much like and this is actually very sharp. Sort of like a linoleum carver. But it's also very heavy. These things are clearly really well made, really well maintained. There are a bunch more forceps in here. I'm not going to go over all those forceps, but actually these are interesting because these have, on one side, they have a sort of central strip that rises. So it's like two lower sides and then a sort of central strip that's higher, and then obviously the opposite here, sort of two higher outer edges and an inner central strip. So whatever you compress with these, it's going to get like a ridge, a curved ridge along them. So I don't know if that's to sort of really cinch off something. I just don't know. These, no, yeah, Germany. Like I said, there are a couple of items in this bag that look like they might belong to a different set, but most of them the vast majority of them seem to belong to the same person. Redundancy, right? Can never be a bad thing. I'm sure these are pretty much identical. Reflex hammers. Apparently I'm dead. You hear that? So yeah, 2 reflex hammers. Here's another. Oh, actually, no, this is not an awl. This is actually like a little tiny, looks like an ice cream scoop. And it looks like an ice cream scoop, and the edges are razor sharp. Well, almost razor sharp. So anything you're scooping out with this, again, would it be soft tissue? I don't know. No idea what this would be used for. Also don't know the sterilization state of any of this stuff. Had this gone through eBay, I don't know if there would have been some sort of process for these coming into the United States. I'm actually surprised they weren't held by customs or you know, I've had packages sent to me, you know, with drawings on the outside, and the drawings made customs hold the bag or the package because they thought that made it suspicious in one way or another. This stuff to me is, I would think it would have been held, but it wasn't. Got to me right quick, as they would say in Britain, Great Britain. Very small set of forceps here. This is another one of those rather nefarious looking sets of forceps that just look like they'd mess you up even more. This is another set of those handshake jaw at the ends where the point of contact is. Forceps. Very cool. Very cool. I was, you know, this is probably boring to some people, and that's fine because this is an ASMR video, a traditional ASMR video. So, you know, you can go to sleep while I talk about these things, but I found all of this quite fascinating. Let me take a look at these. Oh, these are super interesting. Okay. So they're forceps, but the bottom half of them are scissors, very, very sharp scissors, and then the very end of them turn into a point of compression. But that's not the only thing that's odd about it. So there's, you know, the blade part, then there's this flat sort of textured part, and there's like a little slot in the center on both sides. Like you could put a little coin in there. So clearly very specialized, but no idea. Specialized for what? I have no idea. Lots of sets of tweezers. Nothing too interesting about tweezers, I'll grant you that. There's another set. Just different, slightly different sizes, slightly different surfaces. These were not part of the set. I bought a whole bunch of needles off Amazon. I caught flack from some people for recapping needles, but these are they're actually not meant to be used on organic compounds, I guess you would say. They're meant for like taking stuff out of bottles and putting it in other bottles in precise titrated amounts. That could probably break the skin, of course, but with enough force, almost anything could break the skin. So I am recapping that needle. Bam. And this one actually is a real needle, so I did recap this one. And it's got this sort of safety thing that when you're done with it, you're supposed to pop that on the needle, and it will stop it from ever being exposed or dangerous again. But look, I'm taking a very sharp needle, and I'm putting the cap back on. Somebody stop me. So let me get these tweezers are kind of like the forceps that I had shown you earlier, and they have like a little set of interlacing teeth at the end. So, as far as the tweezers go, those are the most interesting tweezers. Let's take all the tweezers out. Why do I keep hearing... I don't know if there's a TV on or something. I keep hearing voices. Hopefully they're not interfering. This obviously did not come with a kit. It's a disposable scalpel that I got. Pretty sharp, but gets dull pretty quick. This is pretty cool. Now I assume this is a retractor. It's these two sort of pieces blunted at the end with like a little notch here at the bottom and a spring keeping tension between them. So I assume you compress this, put it in between your incision, I suppose, and then let it hold something apart. Again, I'm not sure, but if anybody knows what this is, the holdy-aparty thing, I'd be much obliged to know. A few more sets of forceps. These actually have like a single, very sharp tooth at the end that goes into two teeth here. Which, again, just the number of sort of specialized forceps is pretty cool. Those are bog standard. More of the little jaws on the end ones. And I got these separately. Again, it's just stuff I could stick needles into, sodium chloride, and this is lidocaine, and this is Botox. So even these big fat needles will go into this. You can do your... Oh, didn't get anything out. What happened there? Oh, because it's not... Hello. Is it becoming clear that I'm not a real doctor? So salt water, yay. But also Botox. And we're getting near the end here. So this is the they didn't actually send me a scalpel, but this is the base of where you would attach the scalpel. Pretty neat. This kind of reminds me of a knitting needle hook. I don't know if that's used for suturing or what have you. One more of those rather devilish looking forceps. And then these three things that almost look like dental implements. Now I wish you could see really good close-ups of these because their ends are really interesting. This one is almost like just a partial hook. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can get these right up in the camera together. Let's see. This will be interesting. It's focusing on that, but they're still so small that I don't know that you're actually going to get to see what they are. But they are, so this is just kind of a hook, but with sharp ends along both sides of the hook. This is almost like a golf club, but with a razor sharp edge on the bottom. And this one, it's like a triangle. It's a perfect triangle. And each edge is, again, very, very sharp. And then this, I got this. This is just a suture set. You know, for ease of use, suturing sets now come like this. There's a suturing needle, and the spool of thread is wrapped around. So all you do is kind of grab the needle, and you can pull the thread as you suture, and it's, you know, disposable. Pretty neat, but not part of this set. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a lot of stuff. Like I said, I was really impressed that it was this much stuff. You know, and I thought the bag was really nice too. You know, like I said, in really, really good condition. I have these side pockets I haven't even looked in, and they're empty. But I guess in the side pockets you would put, maybe you'd put like sharp stuff. I'm sure there's reasons you'd want to separate stuff and put some things in. There's something in here. It's weird. It's like an old piece of paper. Yeah, a letter. It's got a wax seal on it. I didn't know this was in there, but I'm going to open it. In fact, I will use... Well, I'm going to use my finger. I don't need to use... Wow. Huh. Wow. Okay, I'm going to read this aloud. This is weird. Dear Sir Felix, and then has his last name, which I'm not going to give you, but evidently this was written to the previous owner of this kit. My undying gratitude to you for taking this item off my hands under the terms we agreed upon at the fair in Hull this past weekend. This exquisitely maintained set of surgery implements was owned and used by a Russian military surgeon by the name of Dr. Karl Nikolai Velikovsky. He told me that, at least he told me his last name. He was a captain in the Russian Army Corps from 1935 until his death in 1943 during the Kiev massacre, where he was executed without trial by the People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs after attempting to save the life of a condemned Polish national. Wow. His end was particularly galling, given his heroism in the earlier war effort. He received the Order of the Red Star after the Battle of Stalingrad, where he reportedly performed surgery while suffering a bullet in his own leg to save the life of Major General, later Marshal, Konstantin Rokossovsky. I think it's Rokossovsky. I don't know for sure. By now you are likely thinking the price we settled on as suspiciously low for such a splendid piece of Russian history. You are correct. I regret to inform you that these implements come inextricably linked to a most unwelcome artifact. I apologize in advance for not informing you of this. I am old now and weak. I am old now and weak. I cannot bear this burden any longer. In my cowardice, I have retreated behind the admittedly amoral. Some of this is tough to read. It's clearly pretty old. In my cowardice, I have retreated behind the admittedly amoral adage of caveat emptor. But even so, I have honor enough not to leave you unwarned. Dr. Karl Nikolai Velikovsky maintained a curious ritual when performing surgery. He was, as you might imagine, present during the last moments of many soldiers, as well as civilians. In his bag, he always carried with him a linen, a personal heirloom, and whenever he was unable to save a patient, his last rite was to press this linen well and deep into the face of the victim, forming a small, ephemeral death shroud. The linen has never been cleaned. I estimate it must have absorbed the sweat, tears, and blood of several hundred dying or recently deceased men, and surely some women. Most all of them victims of murder committed in the name of God and country. It carries the essence of their last moments: fear, pain, rage, and the final realization of betrayal, that they fought and died for the fabrication that is the myth of nationalism. May we ever be free from such folly again. By now you will have heard the voices. You may have even begun hearing them before the package arrived, for it is ownership and not possession that matters to these remnants that were once men. The shroud itself cannot be destroyed. I have tried. I have doused it in petrol and set it alight. I have buried it meters underground. I have thrown it from a steamship 100 kilometers from shore. Regardless of my actions, it returns with me in its apparent home inside the black bag, thrumming and crackling with hate mere millimeters beneath the thresholds of perception. You are young now, But someday you too will find this burden too much to bear. When that day comes, know that the only way to rid yourself of this curse is to sell this set of objects as a whole to an unsuspecting buyer, as I did you. The guilt from duping you will haunt me well, but I suspect that haunt to be far less harrowing than that which I presently endure. When you are awake, the shroud will whisper your name, but when you are asleep, it will scream, "Forgive me." Colonel Ivan Petrovich, 17th of February, 1962. Dear God.